Chris Toller.
Latoya Toller. For us, when we learned about our son, Aiden, having some potential complications, we never thought that he would die. We didn't really consider that possibility. We knew that there would be some risk and likely motor issues, but we were really hopeful. And with the feedback we received from the medical providers, we had information that gave us hope. It wasn't really until after he was born that we came face to face with the reality that he was having ongoing seizures that couldn't be managed by medication. And at that point, there was pretty much a fog, and we knew that our reality was going to be very different than we anticipated. And, you know, for everybody, if we live long enough, we're going to have some loss, but it just feels like you're never prepared for it at any time. And when we were faced with the loss of our son, you know, we grieved. We're still grieving. And we had 3 days together that we cherished, and we always say that we gave him a lifetime of love in those days.
And I think it was the third day was actually, you know, in some ways the most powerful, the most memorable. Latoya and I were about to leave the hospital. She was about to be discharged, and then we were, the doctors, the team of doctors, called us to have a meeting, you know, and that was when we learned that he was not going to survive on his own, and that the only plan that made sense was to take him off machines and to just have him hold us, and have us hold him. And you know, at that point, so we're in kind of a family meeting room outside of the NICU at Duke. And we didn't know if he was going to live for 5 minutes, for half an hour, for a couple hours, and he gave us almost another day with him. And I think that was something where, you know, I think it really helped us. I think it continues to help us, and you know, the fact that he gave us another day with him, that really helped change the narrative to, you know, for us to be able to see what a gift he gave us, showing us his strength, his heart. We think of him as you know, courageous, or lion-hearted, our little lion. His headstone has an image of a lion on it, and I think that's the overriding symbol and image we have of him. And you know, when these things happen, I think it changes your life immediately, and then it also kind of gradually changes your life over time. But that's the one thing that I always come back to, that his courage, his bravery, and you know, I try to remember that and you know, feel that as an inspiration in the things we do.
I would say, you know, as we prepared to go home and even went home, you know, certainly we never expected to do that without him, you know, after we left the hospital. And I guess I took comfort in the fact that even though he didn't get to come home, he did, in the sense that, you know, while I was pregnant, he was there with us, and he still continues to be so much a part of our home, so much a part of our lives. But that grief, like Chris said, has definitely changed our story. You know, I think we were functioning as parents to our other child, but we were, I know for myself, I was making an extreme effort to be present. Didn't want her to see how sad we were. It took a lot of time, months and months, to return to work, to feel connected again to other people. It's really only been the past year or two that it's been something we can talk about openly, something I can talk about openly. And, you know, it's just been a very, very emotional and long healing process. As a parent, you know, I always say, whenever people ask, you know, and people often ask casually, how many kids do you have? And I can never dismiss the fact that I have a third child. You know, we have 2 at home and 1 with the Lord. And while I'm very aware of our daughters, where they are, what they're doing, you know, what's going on with them, I'm also very much aware of Aiden, you know, just as a part of our family also. His pictures are throughout our home. Our children, our daughters know him. We visit his gravesite. We celebrate his birthdays. Like Chris said, you know, he gave us so much. He gave us a gift just in those 3 short days. And I'm always going to feel inspired by him, and, you know, just proud that he is a part of our family.
And speaking of pictures, the organization, Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep, took beautiful photographs of Aiden. They do amazing work, and you know, it's what they do is so valuable. You know, the last thing you're thinking of at that time is, oh, we should have, you know, family pictures done. But you know, they took beautiful professional photographs with, you know, a lot of sensitivity to the situation. And they were amazing. The social worker at Duke was great, pastoral counselor, and then afterward they helped connect us to a grief
support group.
Grief support group
For parents.
Yeah, and we went to that a few times. To be honest, we stopped doing that because it kind of became hard to talk about the same thing over and over. You know, and I imagine it's different for everyone. For some people, maybe going once is fine. For other people, maybe, you know, going long term makes sense. I think we went for a couple months.
Mm-hmm.
But there were a number of great supports available that Duke helped connect us to. And then over time, we started a small nonprofit we called Aiden's Angels. One of the things we do is we return to the NICU at Duke a couple times a year, every June and every December. Aiden's birthday is in December. And we try to give practical and supportive items to families, such as gas cards, children's books. We love doing children's books. Sometimes we'll do journals. We've done onesies before, vouchers for food in the cafeteria, you know, just to kind of let people in the families who are in the NICU, let them know we're thinking about them. And you know, extend a branch and give some support and hopefully make their journey a little bit easier.
One of the things I'm thinking of is just as far as what other people can do, you know, to help. At the time, it feels like there's nothing someone can do to help, but I think one of the key things is just being sensitive to just the needs at the time, being aware of where that person might be, and, you know, kind of asking what their needs are, not making statements that kind of imply, you know, you can just have another child, and really just minimize loss. And we've heard that a lot, and it just is very painful. And just being, you know, somebody that can listen, being around others who will listen to you was really helpful for us. Being around other people who would give us their time. And also realistic expectations of grieving. We find, I think, Western culture is is one where people kind of sometimes assume that you lose someone and then you just move on very quickly. And in other parts of the world, you know, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more prolonged, and, you know, oftentimes it is like that. It's an ongoing process, as we found it to be. I would, you know, definitely want to encourage other parents who've experienced loss to reach out, to let other people in when you can, to get some supports. I know Chris mentioned the parenting support group that was helpful, and just gives you an outlet to share your story. Taking care of yourself as much as possible. Sometimes you're so focused on what's happened that you forget to eat, forget to sleep, you know, do some basic things that are really important, especially if you have other children at home to take care of, making sure that you're available to them. You know, if somebody can bring a meal, that might be helpful as well. But being around people who love you, will give you space when you need it, give you time. I think throughout this, I feel like I am stronger than I could have imagined was possible to be. But I think out of this tragedy, it's given us the opportunity to help others. And so for that reason, you know, that's been the blessing in it, that we have a chance to give back.